mess things up there. Okay, so, hey. Yeah, I'm pressing buttons. I have a new tool, so when I press buttons, things go a little interesting. If I hit crouch, things go a little interesting. So I'll explain it as we go. Yeah, so welcome to STRAT Chat. We are doing positioning today. So at the top, I'll update it as we go on what we're basically doing at any given moment. Yeah, for starters, I am live streaming this, and this will be on YouTube later on my channel. I do post whenever I go live stream. This is a different time. It's just because I had time and figured, hey, why not? It's pretty great. But yeah, we're going through positioning, so we're going to cover basically positioning in general, all that stuff, and at the top we'll adjust. If we come up with anything else to talk about, I'll put it up there. If you have any questions, go ahead and post it in the chat. Let's see if I can actually fix the chat real quick. Yeah, let's switch that out. Let's give that a shot. Hopefully that works. All right. So yeah, I'm gonna show you what I'm using right here. I'm using a spectator tool I made where we can actually spectate me. So let me rotate this around. Hi. So yeah, we have that as a spectator tool, and then also I have a tool where if I do that, I can actually point out stuff. If I need to adjust things, I can. So I can adjust it here to show you all this stuff. So yeah, let's get right to it. So usually, so what is positioning? That's basically the first question we're going to be asking. I'm going to move that over there. So yeah, what is positioning? Positioning is usually in terms of, I crouch at bad times. Positioning is usually in the terms of act of being in a place, where place you are, all that stuff. So a lot of people think when it's mentioned of like you have bad positioning, it's never really explained to you why. People are just like, oh yeah, you lost because you had bad positioning. And I think there was one time where I saw an example of it, of being that positioning is like, well, I think it was compared to like trying to figure out, working with your date, figuring out where to actually go out. And you're like, oh, let's go here. And then it's like, nah, I don't really want to go there. And then you're like, how about here? It's like, no, not really go there. So you only really know if you're doing it badly. I think that's wrong, and so I actually can explain to you some fundamentals on positioning, what to think about, and all that stuff. So we're starting out with the main one, support, and let's go ahead and change what we have up here. So yeah, positioning is how you actually, and it has fundamentals. So let's talk about the first fundamental is actually applying, safety. Safety is the first fundamental. Yeah, so fundamental, first one is safety. And then that's probably never going to stay centered. Oh well. So safety is the one that people usually think about. And it's the idea of I am in a spot in which I will never die. And it's hard for people to get on to me and stuff like that. So if you think about it, I'm going to actually detach right here. And we're going to go out. So let's say we're an attacking team. And we are moving around. So usually, let's say, for example, we were up. Hopefully this works.
Hello there.
Did it work? Nope. Rip. Okay. So usually, let's say, for example, Anna's right here. Well, she is under a pressure that is exerted. So, for example, if Afara is up here and she sees the Anna, anything she sees is something that she can shoot. And so in that scenario, there's a pressure exerted on the Anna. Now the Anna is exerting a pressure as well if she's looking at the Farah. So there's that whole pressure. And so this is a good position to apply pressure. That's the other fundamental. But it's a bad position to stay alive, meaning you're under a lot more pressure. As well as it as you don't have any outs to get out. So what's a good thing about this position over here as Ana usually? So this is just kind of like a fundamental good position as Ana. And so if you look right here, you have a window in which you're standing, and if you are getting dove, so let's say like a Winston comes up, you can just back up like this, and now no one can see you. So pressure that's exerted from here, so let's just imagine that this is a pressure zone of just looking at her. So let's say we're a Farah and this is our view. We can't see her, so we can't deal any damage. We can see her, now we can deal damage. So that's how pressure kind of works, is it's the potential of dying. And positioning for safety is what's a good place to be that is safe. And you kind of want to balance this. All the fundamentals you want to balance. So if we go back here, you're safe. So if the Winston jumps up and it's like, oh no, I have to go back, and you start going backwards, there's a couple of things that happen. One, you can't get a lot of support from your team that much. It's a little difficult. But the other thing is they can't shoot you with a Widow unless the Widow's like right here. So you see the Widow's like right there, over here, like. Let's go back to regular again. So if the Widow's right, I want right there. I don't want there. I want right there. Right there. There we go. So if the Widow's like right there, I can see her, she can see me, and I can get shot by her. So if we rotate around here, she can't see me. So we can back into here when we're getting dove and get a health pack and just hold here. We can rotate around and actually help from here or get sight lines here, all that stuff. So it's relatively a safe position. If we're with someone else, it helps out as well. The other thing is what's a common thing that freaks you out when you start getting dove? And it's like, oh no, everyone is around me. So for example, if I'm here and the Winston dives right here, then I am in danger because they're behind me. So for me to escape, I have to go this way, which opens me up to a lot more pressure because, for example, if the team was over here, now I'm in danger because I can actually get seen. So a good kind of fundamental is to actually get this into practice, and I'll mention this later, is when you're in a position. So like when you're getting dove on, you have a feeling of like, oh no, I'm getting dove on, this is not good, I'm going to die. And then you sometimes do. Well, when you step out in the open like this, you kind of need to feel the same thing of like, oh no, if they have a sniper, I'm going to die. So range damage is just as potent as dive damage. So always keep that in mind. There's a lot to it. So yeah, just being in good places. So think about when you're choosing a position that is safe, figure out, A, can I get away fast? And so usually high ground is really good for this because you can jump down off the high ground or whatever, or you can rotate around here. So getting away fast over here. Do I have cover? And now cover, for those who don't know, is the ability to block pressure. The same way, and I'll demonstrate this again. So let's say we're like a Widow right here. Whoop. So I am not covered. You can see me. I am now in cover. So this whole like peeking thing is cover. So this is me ducking in between cover. So that's the whole process of cover. So you want cover. So positions like this without anything is bad cover. In the same way, if you're going to peek, if you're out here shooting, you're not in cover at all. Anyone can shoot you and you die. But here, you have the possibility of, oh no, I'm going to get shot, move around the corner. And that's where you're 100% safe at all times. And then there's the other one of, do you have ready availability of a health pack? Well, over here you do, but it takes a little bit to get there. So sometimes you kind of want a better place to kind of get that, because getting that health pack is a little interesting sometimes. So bonuses there across the board. This is relatively a good position. Other positions you can take that some people take, common one people take, and this isn't necessarily a good position, but it runs into some of the fundamentals, but it isn't the best position. So always keep these in mind. Also high ground. Another thing the high ground does is there's a barrier to get up here, meaning you have to have upward mobility. So if you're down here, they just run straight into you. This is a bad position because they can just run you over. You have nothing protecting you from that. Even though they can jump up to you, they're spending abilities, and there's ways to actually deal with that as well. So if you're up here, this is a relatively good position because you have a lot of cover, because usually the enemy team's over here on offense. So you have a lot of cover, which is nice. The problem is they can actually walk up here and just run straight through you and your team. You can go around here and help out a little bit, but what's a big problem? Well, you can still get dove, and do you have a health pack that you can easily get to? Well, not really. This does take the same amount of distance, but the problem is it's in the open. So to get from here to here, wow, this is entertaining. To here, there we go. I think I need to rebind because I have it on hello. Yeah, getting from here to here, there's not really any cover besides maybe this staircase that you can hide behind. But that's it. So it's a very open area that's kind of just sketchy overall. So that's another fundamental. Other ideas. So on attack, if you position here, you are relatively safe. Now there's another thing to go with that, and let me go ahead and change. So we're on the next one, and it's no, not that guy. There we go. So this is technically why I just want there we go. Properties. There we go. So we are on number 3 technically. I was on number 1 that entire time. Rip. So number 3 is pressure that we exert ourselves. So change this to pressure. So the pressure that you create. This is very helpful because it also determines what your killing power is. Every single support needs to do this. So for example, an Ana can use the L rule where her entire team's like right here. So her team's here and she's sitting here, which means that she can't get shot at all. That's really good to remove pressure from yourself. You stay alive for longer. The problem is you don't really supply anything to the fight besides healing. But on the other side of it, and this is kind of the trade-off, it's a very similar reason of why this position is usually pretty bad on like offense, let's say. So this position would usually be pretty bad because they can exert a ton of pressure on you. You're not safe, but at the same time, you can exert more pressure. So you have more of a pressure exertion that you can actually create. So this is good to apply pressure, not good for safety. So it's a balance. You want good in both avenues. So if we're up here, we only apply pressure here, maybe. We don't apply pressure above this wall because a FAR can be up here and it's hard to hit. So there's some pressure lost. Whereas if we go all the way over here, we can apply pressure here, 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 here. All of those different places we can apply pressure. Oh, and also here. And it's relatively safe because we're not going to get ran over on that platform. And it takes them a while to get all the way around here. So pretty good spots overall. So we apply pressure with our damaging. So what is our pressure? Well, pretty much our pressure is anything that we can actually, basically how we can threaten to kill someone. Basically, when someone peeks that corner and they go, oh no, I'm going to die, what are we applying to that pressure? Well, we have a 3-shot kill to 200 health targets. Nades applies a pressure change. So usually nades don't apply a pressure because they're easy to like dodge around. But when you get hit by them, pressure is added to you because you can't be healed and you took a bit of damage as well. There's also a sleep dart pressure. The closer they are to you, the easier it is to hit your sleep dart. So it's actually a higher pressure the closer to you. On the other side of it, what's something we are not applying pressure to? And this kind of goes into the safety rule. So we are actually not applying pressure behind us. The reason is because we're not shooting behind us. We would have to do this. But we're aiming and we're shooting here. So that's when you get flankers that actually can apply a lot of pressure instantly to someone who isn't applying any pressure to them already. So what happens if you get dope? Well, you go back here. What's something that's really good about this? Well, let's say our divers are right here. They can't get behind us, and they are in front of us. So they technically don't get a flanker's advantage. We always have a frontal advantage. Same thing goes with Zen. Zen's actually a lot better in this scenario because you deal more damage in a corridor like this. So like if a Tracer's jumping you, go into a hallway and just shoot. And if she tries to get behind you, then she's farther in. So she's wanting to stay out here. And you can just play the corridor. And she has to dash through you to actually get you. So there's all of that to take into account. Also, let's say for example, there's another side to it. So let's say I'm the enemy team, and I'm diving this Ana. The Ana's like, oh no, I'm in here. So let's go ahead and pull out the pen. So here's our target. What directions can this Ana go? She can go in this direction, this direction. She can get smaller by going backwards, or larger by going forwards. Think of it as two-dimensional. So she's actually confined to this spot, this box, which means your pressure, depending on, will actually apply more into here because you know that they're not going to step outside at all. They're going to stay in here. So it's actually interesting if we step out here. Let's go this way. Okay, so if we step out here, now where can I move? So I'm technically more unpredictable here, and it goes into a couple of accounts. We can go forward, backward, up to here where we hit a wall, or up to here, and then we have a soft wall, and then we have the ledge. So we know that if the Ana is going to go anywhere, this soft wall is basically meaning if the Ana wants to go off the high ground or not. So that's kind of an interesting thing there. Guac, I just hit my career best while on the PTR while roll lock. Congrats. How do you think this will translate to live when roll lock hits? I'm skeptical and worried about roll lock overall. I know you can still be creative with a 2-2-2, but Blizzard, the difference between what happened when they switched from no limits to quick play and a infinite roll to a roll lock is that it's been 4 years, and technically the no limits aspect wasn't that big of a deal because it was a little bit, not everyone used it. The only thing that was big was the double Winston. The problem was that they fixed that, and then it took them 2 years to balance change everyone so that they can actually do better. So there's some design decisions with characters. I think Winston had a cooldown nerf way back when because of the double Winston thing that they changed 2 years after launch. So it took 2 years for them to fix that, and I'm worried that they're going to let some characters kind of get down lower because of this, and I'm also worried that it's not going to fix everything. I've been pretty skeptical on the bunker comp. I've been afraid of that one. I think when I made the character I made, there's always a bigger fish in the. And I knew that there's two things holding down bunker comp, and it was goats comp and the Hammond dive, where it's just a solo Hammond and a lot of damage. And I'm just kind of scared that that whole thing's gonna mess up. That being said, for solo queuers, it's gonna be a lot better because you're not gonna have to worry about it. There might be a problem where you have multiple off tanks, but it's kind of interesting. We'll see how it goes. They are doing a soft beta on live once it comes out, so we'll see how it goes there. So yeah, that's the pressure thing here. Other pressures to apply, and then so let me show you why pressure's a little interesting here. So you do apply, there we go. So you do apply a pressure, so the Ana can move in any direction. Kind of up a little bit if she wanted to jump. So this is our prediction kind of angle, and we know that she has a limit to it. So technically tight corridors, if they still have line of sight of you, you're actually more like you have more pressure on you. But when there's less people, then you have less pressure on you. It's more about range pressure that causes this. So yeah, that is just pressure in general. And then now, so we had safety, pressure, and then pressure also goes the other way of like supporting your team, all that stuff. So number 4. I'm trying to think of what to talk about next. So how to deal with getting dove. Alright, so we're going to talk about how to deal with getting dove. So I'm going to switch to a different character. I'm going to switch to a Winston, stereotypical Winston. We're going to walk through this. Guac, I also think there's a thing I saw that some of the pros are actually getting a lot higher. I know they said that they had to rework the whole competitive system, so I kind of wonder if it might actually be favoring for people to get higher SRs. It might actually be fixing some problems that people have been having where they get bad comps and they aren't. Might have fixed the hell. That would be great. So yeah, so diving, basically how to deal with getting dove. So we're gonna pretend like that is Ana. So we have just dove up here. Boom. So now she is trying to get back, and pretty much we kind of try to chase her down. Once we break this line, then we have no support. So if it was a Zen, they could, or Ana could sleep dart us. So it's pretty good to usually just like hold the sleep dart till a little bit later. And the pressure we apply in here is the same as actually right here because it's right in front of us. It's pretty much the same. And we still have the same kill potential. So this actually helps out. So there's that. There's also the idea of counter diving. So players on your team, like a tank, could actually wait for them to jump on you and then do this and then get in between. And then that helps out because it basically means, oh wait, now we have an advantage because our support is actually pumping into the Winston. The Winston can just burn through them. Even though they don't deal a ton of damage, it's still actually better. It's not that much of an advantage. So there's all that stuff there. Let's switch over to another. So, so like Lucio, how do you prevent? What's good positioning for Lucio? Lucio's kind of interesting. Ah, I disconnected from that wall somehow, and I'm now stuck. There we go. That was a weird wall. So with Lucio's positioning, I like to be next to a wall a lot of the times, and the reason is because it's like, oh no, Diana needs help over there, and then I boom. So you can get over there. So, for example, doing this is a lot worse than doing this, because you can actually get to a lot of places. So positioning near walls is good because you can pop up, and just the height change, you can do stuff like this, and it's technically harder to get hit by projectiles specifically. Hit scan, they can still hit you if they're decent enough, but it's kind of good, especially if you're lower levels, to do, just because it helps out. Against a Pharah, she'll just shoot the wall, so don't try to do that on the Pharah. Let's say we're in the middle of a team fight. What is something you don't want to be? Right here! Exactly, like right here. So it's the same kind of principles. Don't walk to people. There's a lot of people who will actually try to get closer, even though that they have range. So let's pretend like we're a widow. Okay. Pop quiz, who's more likely to die? This Lucio or this Lucio? Of course, you got it right on the money. The Lucio that's actually out in the middle of everyone. And so keeping that in mind, because yes, you do apply more pressure long range, but you don't apply any pressure back here. That being said, the pressure you apply is a lot less than the widow. So there's that to keep in mind. So doing this like in the middle of a fight, so like bouncing around, stuff like that, this is actually very dangerous, and is probably the #1 reason why people will say that your positioning in it is trash, is because you are in the middle of anywhere or stuff like that. And so the good thing to think about is going, oh, I can use this cart, because you would have an anxiety of, oh no, this widow, I peek out, I'm going to get killed by the widow. Similar to a, oh no, this Winston's going to dive me, I'm going to die. The, oh no, I'm going to get shot because I'm poking out. And so and then you can also do stuff like this. Whoop, I messed up. I hit the crouch. So you can do the crouch peek and stuff like that. I can't do that now, but do that to help out. It alleviates pressure because it makes you less predictable. Doing this doesn't do a lot. It does a little bit, but if you do it too fast, it actually just doesn't do anything. So just being unpredictable there. So there's really a lot to actually deal with it. Other good positions are back here. They can't see it, and then you just peek. Let me get angled so we're actually... Yeah, okay. So we can peek. Yep. So yeah, that stuff with Lucio, very similar to Moira, similar to Mercy, all those things. You're not wanting to create a pressure that much. You're wanting to more help with the pressure. So like Mercy, you're never wanting to peek out. Peeking out, boom, dead. So like let's say they see. So for example, this is a bad example, but that's a widow. Peek out, boom, we're dead. Why did you peek out? Well, you're not applying any pressure at all. You have a staff out. You can pull out and do this, which is okay, but it's not as good as other things. So yeah, that's stuff with Mercy. Baptiste, similar to basically people lump up. So people who actually do similar positioning. No, not. Right. Yeah, so these guys do similar positioning because they're more range. These guys do similar positioning because they're more close quarters. So you want to be looking and poking a lot less because you don't deal that much damage. And you're a lot more close in. You want the close fight. So basically the safer positions that I showed would be the best positions for there. So next one would be, so I don't know if I have the numbers. Track number 5, tank positioning. There we go. So tank positioning goes in 2 parts. You have, of course, there's basically a couple things to keep in mind. So Rhine. So Rhine positioning, you don't want to use your shield. Basically, the goal of a Rhine player is to not use his shield. So how do you go about doing that? Well, it's actually pretty simple. You want to use your shield where you get value. So just saying, oh, there's bullets flying by. I need to pull up my shield. Yes, you are removing. Let's see if I can actually do this. I want to see if I can do this real quick. So let's see if I can do this. So if a Rhine is doing this, I'm trying to orient. Okay, so if Rhine's like this, let's move back a little bit. You can shoot anywhere. But if he's like this, you can't shoot through the shield. So when there is pressure created, boom, pressure's gone. Boom, pressure there, pressure gone. Pressure there, pressure gone. And it's because you really can't kill anyone through a shield. There is ways around it, but for the most part, no one dies through a shield. So boom, safe, not safe. Safe, not safe. So with positioning, you want to conserve that. So right here is a relatively good position because when they come up, so for example, so you can't see the Rhine. Now you can. Yep, there you go. Can't see the Rhine. Now you can see the Rhine. So what this helps you out with is you're now corner peeking, similar to the support we did. And you're not using any shield at all. And at the same time, you're not taking that much damage, and you're dealing damage. What if you actually need to have someone peek for a lot longer? Or have someone squishy peek? Because I can do this because I'm a tank. 500 hit points, I can't get one shot unless just a bunch of weird stuff happens. But for the most part, boom. I can't get one shot through relative damage, usually. I have less chance of getting one shot. So I actually have less pressure on me because I die a lot less easily. So I can peek like this, and people can shoot through the shield on my team. And then we can drop, boom, corner peek a little bit, and then pull back, shield comes up, our team can shoot through it. So completely safe. Bad positionings to be in. Let's say I'm right here, and this is a Farah. Yeah, all I can do is just look up at you and hold my shield for the most part, and just hope you don't kill me. So I actually have a lot of pressure applied to me. The shield removes that pressure, but at the same time, I apply no pressure to the Farah, therefore this is a bad position. So think about it. Do I apply pressure? Yes or no? Do I have pressure applied to me? Yes or no? What is a contingency plan? And then you kind of think about there. So the third is always contingency plan of going to a health pack or whatever. So stuff like that with Rhine, moving through, you have pressure applied to. Basically, you want to be around your team the entire time. That's usually positioning there. Orisa has very similar positioning, almost exactly the same, but you can actually use your barrier a lot more often. So Orisa is very similar. You can even do a ranged version of Orisa, similar to the supports, and be on long range. Diva plays very similar to Rhine, where yes, you do have defense matrix that you can use sparingly, but you actually want to be around the corner most of the time, because now I'll actually show. Look at that. So, this is Diva's hitbox, which is very interesting. And I'm not able to get... I'm not able to actually draw on the screen. Rip. Rest in peace. Okay, hold on. We're fixing this. We're fixing this. Screen cap. Paste duplicate. There we go. Haha. Now we can draw. So this. There we go. Now we have it working out. So this is Diva's hitbox, which is the... I think it's actually... Head hitbox is more like this. So it's the size of Atlanta. Yeah, you can hit her pretty easily. So another way to remove pressure from yourself is doing that. No head hitbox, no die. But at the same time, you do take damage. What's a way in which you won't take damage? Well, pretty simple. You can't see me. Now you can. So it's the same principle. If I can see you, I therefore deal pressure to you. For those that are also wondering, pressure is another way in explaining taking space. So applying pressure is the act of taking space or attempting to take space. It's your ability to take space, all that stuff. So all that. Roadhog, very similar to Diva. Can't take high ground, so you want to be on high ground if you need high ground, all that stuff. You apply a pressure to people by hooking and killing them, so you have a one-shot potential, all that. Winston, similar to Diva. You apply pressure that's really close range. You don't want to peek out. Your head hitbox is huge. You don't want to get hit. Hammond has no head hitbox while rolling, so you actually have a better chance of surviving while rolling. And yeah, so with Hammond, that's how it works there. Zarya, very similar to basically the other tanks. Pretty much everything is very similar. Let's go, for example, we're going to do two sides of the spectrum. I'm only going to do Widow and Tracer, just because it makes all of them pretty much transfer. So Widowmaker is long range, so you actually apply a lot of pressure in this area. So look at everything I can see. I apply pressure everywhere there. So that's why you have a lot of Widows that move around like this, is because it's inconsistent pressure, because it's hard to actually see what's over here. So you have to turn a lot more. So you'll see a lot of Widows hang around here, look around a lot more to kind of see. So they're applying pressure, and then they have to apply it. So wherever they see it, they're actually applying more pressure than wherever they don't see, even though you do apply pressure, because you have more of a chance of getting a one-shot. So you don't have to worry as much about the safety part. That being said, so it doesn't apply that much to you, but at the same time, it applies enough in which you pretty much have to do it anyways. So here, safe, because you can go back to a health pack, constantly peeking, you have wall peaks and all that stuff. Whereas Tracer works a bit differently. So Tracer is similar to the tanks or others, where you want to basically use corners, all that stuff, fighting like this in the middle while everyone's shooting around you. So like here, fighting around like this. Sorry, I crouched. So fighting around like this, shooting, is unsafe because you can get shot, all that stuff. So you want to like shoot, use this as cover, blink here. If you have pressure exerted on you that would kill you, you boom, blink away. That's usually how people blink. If you have low health, and so the lower your health is, the higher pressure is exerted on you, because there's a more chance that you're going to die. So basically, boom, you recall away, and that's why you usually get people recall and all that stuff. So that's the main thing with the DPS, all that stuff. So we technically skipped a bit more than what we needed. So we technically skipped past 6, which was DPS. We're now on 7. And we are on... Ha! The 3-second rule. So, what is the 3-second rule? And I usually explain this in terms of Widowmaker or Pharah. We're going to play it. Let's actually do Widowmaker because there's more applications with Widowmaker. So in a Widow 1v1, and pretty much every single character gets this. So the longer you stay in one spot, the more pressure is exerted on you because the enemy team knows where you are. So if I'm up here, I'm staying here. If I stand completely still, I have a lot of pressure exerted on me because it's easier for them to hit me. If I'm doing this the entire time, yes, I have less pressure because it's harder for them to hit me, but at the same time, they know I'm going to be in this general area. So let's say, for example, there's another Widow over there. So I know she's going to be there the entire time. So I peek, boom, peek, boom. So the 3-second rule is generally used as a good indicator of how long you should stay in one position for a certain amount of time. So, for example, if you're standing out here without peeking back into cover, or at the same time, if you peek out of cover and back in, there's more likelihood that you're going to die because I know you're there. I can peek it. What is something that would ruin my day? Oh, well, if you actually went around and were right here or right here, that's a different position. I'm expecting you to be here, so that's where the 3-second rule applies. It's standing out pretty much in the open in the same spot for more than 3 times. Now, well, not 3 times, 3 seconds. Now there is another rule applied to it. Don't peek twice. So don't peek twice. So basically, for example, let's say there's a Widow here that sees me. I miss my first shot, boom, ah, shoot. I come back in. Technically, that Widow has an advantage because I am going back into her and I'm peeking a second time. She knows where I'm at, and I've already violated the 3-second policy, and I'm going to be in the exact same spot again later. So there's that problem there. So with that, we have, boom, the Widow could shoot me. I could shoot the Widow. The Widow was peeking. I know that she's peeking and all that there. There's also an explanation of the Widow closest to cover. So this, we're technically both on cover. I'm on this. She's on that. There's an advantage because you're peeking around cover. The other side of it is if I'm here in the middle of everywhere, I'm in an inconsistent spot. So another way to peek is doing this, because you're not going to basically be in the same spot necessarily. So there's some advantages. That being said, you still have more pressure exerted on you. So that's why usually it's like, oh no, I got shot. Darn it, why did I get shot again? Oh, that's because they knew where you were and were gonna just shoot you. So those are the rules there. I'm gonna cover a little bit more with the 3-second rule. So we're gonna switch. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about the 3-second rule a little bit, and then we'll move on again. So a good kind of idea of the 3-second rule is with diving. So for example, let's say I, boom, dive here. Sorry. And I'm shooting, boom, boom, boom. 3 seconds goes by. If I'm there for any longer, they can dive back on me. So I move away, I'm here. Kind of works the same way. Let's say there's someone on point. You go, boom, boom, dive them, pile drive. I'm now here. I can stay here for 3 seconds, shoot around, stuff like that. If we get 3 kills, then I can stay. But that being said, if I only get the 1 kill, I need to move out of the way pretty quick. I change position. So always jumping back up to the high ground is really great, because you can always, so like let's say I'm on here, I can always jump down to here, but if I'm down here, it's harder for me to actually get up there. Even though I still can, I have to use an ability. Otherwise, I don't have to use an ability. I can just do this. Boom, pile drive, swing off. So basically, whenever you're thinking about, oh no, that Widow got me, or got like 3, Usually it's because everyone just was in our line of sight, and some of them were in the line of sight for really no reason. So always when you play, like, try to figure out, like, am I going to die in this situation? Always ask yourself that. And then just kind of build up an anxiety around getting shot and killed. What others do we want to cover? So we're technically on 8. Do we have any questions about pressure? Let's go to questions until I can think of another thing to talk about with positioning. Hey Magnum, how's it going? It's been a while. Been a long day without you, my friend. Talking about pressure. How pressure's exerted, how to basically win Widow 1v1. So basically if the Widow peeks the second time, woohoo, you win. A bunch of different stuff. So we have Doomfist, yeah. Yep, tweeting about big brain strats, pretty much. I can talk a little bit more about positioning with Orisa. So specifically, you would want to be in a place where they can't run into you, because you don't want people behind your shield. People behind your shield means that they can just shoot you. You don't want that. So if you have like the barrier here, you can shoot here, shoot up here. You can halt away from the team in the back line. You can even be over there. Both ways I'm completely okay with. But this barrier actually creates protection for you, of course. Interesting thing is that the first Orisa to use Fortify usually loses the fight. And it's because, watch the cooldown. 8-second on halt. And we have, wait for it, 10 seconds on Fortify. And Fortify lasts for 4 seconds. So if you think about it this way, let's say there's an Orisa there. We're shooting, we're shooting, we're shooting. We halt first, lift her up, and she uses Fortify. I'm going to have my halt back before she has Fortify back. So let's actually do this. So imagine that I'm playing both roles. I'm going to Fortify as the other Orisa. Boom. Okay. So we're waiting for it. Fortify is now down, and I'm 4 seconds to halt. All I do is wait, halt. She does not have Fortify. She gets picked up and over. Kind of like old Zarya saving Bubble for Hog. Pretty much, yeah. You basically... And there's also ways around it. I know I've been practicing right now with a triple tank rip where you would play a Diva next to the Orisa Hog, and you would eat the enemy halt and basically remove that. So there's stuff there. Zarya does remove pressure from people just with Bubble. Sorry. Keep pressing that button. It's so, like, consistent to like, crouch just for fun. I'm trying to get used to the controls. So, like, Pharah has a pretty decent 3-second rule. So if you're doing this for 3 seconds, that's enough time to actually, for them to acquire and kill you. So you want to move around. So if you're doing this, yep, you should die about now. So that's the whole, like, rule. You peek. Boom. Basically 1, 2, 3. Boom, peek. Change position. So there's a difference because changing position fast is pretty good. Changing it slow is pretty difficult. Basically, the longer you stay in one spot, the more likely they are to dive you. It's hard for immobile people just because there's usually a good position, that's it. and that's where you kind of need to keep in mind of what do I do if they actually do dive me. Fun fact, we actually, we move to the middle, and I'll show you. For people wondering how some, let's actually go back here. Okay. So let's, so Reaper actually creates a pressure around here because he can shoot and kill people within this range, and that's kind of like a bubble. So just imagine like a little bubble thing around here. So he can shoot anyone within here, but at the same time there is a higher pressure where he's looking, and there's a lower pressure where he's not. Even though he can still shoot them, he has to turn around. Fire Mercy seems strong right now in scrims. Yeah, so an interesting thing that usually Fire Mercy could do is that it's a difficult thing. Fire Mercy I've always been kind of skeptical on, because the right person, and honestly, you don't have to worry about hitting the target. Like, anyone can actually hit a pharmacy in the air. And specifically, like, you can have a Widow hit the pharmacy. There's a lot of snipers that I'm seeing pop up. And then also, Sombra's still good, even though that she's getting nerfed on the PTR. Sombra's still good because you can just hack them out of the air. And honestly, when you hack a Pharah, you lose like 2 people with the Pharah and the Mercy at the same time. That being said, I'm thinking range is the key. So, like a Doomfist, I think if you're playing a close quarters dive, you can do a Doomfist. You can still take out a Pharah's Doomfist. I find that it's actually pretty consistent being able to take out Pharah's Doomfist. Junkrat, I think we're going to see less play. The thing I'm worried about is the Orisa Hog Bunker. Baptiste, also, I never got to do a strat shot on Baptiste, which is depressing, just because I don't have the time. And I know I'm doing this. Oh, no. What? Oh, no. It actually removes my jumping ability. So, Baptiste actually has some interesting things that he can do. I really like the whole doing this. So that's consistent. So basically, and you actually can get more DPS out of doing this. So in between each shot, you actually shoot a right click, or you hold a right click, and between each shot, you shoot a left click. And so you can get more damage or more healing. That being said, you can get the same amount of healing either way, or the same amount of damage. You just get the option of doing more. So I think actually Baptiste is pretty good. And I think we could see him a lot more. I think because where Baptiste is right now, meta-wise, is very similar to where Ana was, right as Quad Tank came out. And the reason why I'm saying that specifically is where people found that it's like, oh yeah, we can get more value out of people that are tanks because it's easier for a Ana to hit tanks. At the same time, it's more easier for a Baptiste to hit tanks and people close together. Range is really hard for Baptiste, and I think that the more people actually get practice, the more they're going to be comfortable in actually hitting their own Pharah mid-air and healing them, and then actually hitting shots. Because this, you kind of have to do a lot of recoil control. Because this, yeah, so that recoil control helps out a lot. So I think we might actually be seeing a lot more Baptiste. The Brig, actually, hold on, let's pop in. We're gonna change this. We're gonna change to PTR. We're gonna talk about PTR a little bit. I'm gonna actually load it up. We're gonna talk about some of the changes. So let me Let me switch things back. We'll be right back. Yeah, I know. It's cheesy. Okay. So... I can't do a custom game. Oh well. We'll just go into a practice range and talk about some of this stuff. The hero changes. So the barrier for Orisa. What's actually interesting is the cooldown increase for Orisa isn't much of a change. It's going to be interesting how they overlap, but the lack of possible DPS on the enemy team is going to make it so that barrier is actually more oppressive. So increasing the cooldown is probably going to be a wash. That being said, if you're playing still a high damage composition with like a Hog, Zen, and all those people, then you can still burn through that pretty much. The knockback stuff on Ryan, I think basically all that really did was nerf Hammond. It is helpful across the board, but usually if a Lucio is that aggressive to get into you, he's going to die most of the time. So it's really, I would say it's a Hammond Lucio nerf. Maybe a little bit of Doomfist. I don't know. But yeah, I think that mostly hits a Hammond because Hammonds just bounce around those guys. That being said, I think you still get bounced around. The one that I'm really skeptical on is the ult change for Hammond. And so just like the increase in projectile speed, and I think the mines activate earlier, which is a buff. That is actually a really good buff. Because there's some instances where I'm playing and I can just walk out of the mines. And it's kind of depressing. So let's see. Yeah, that's actually farther out. So that's the spread you usually want as you're falling. So that's usually the spread that I try to go for. The worry I have is if you're too close to the wall, when you ult, the mines actually get attached to the wall. And so I'm afraid with the higher projectile speed, you're going to end up with a lot more duds in basically the game. Well, basically in the ult. So there's sometimes where the ult just kind of flops. Yeah, be right back screen. Yeah, pretty much. Just using it for... So yeah, like, let's do this. So on regular Overwatch, yeah. So those are too far apart. Because that's too traversable. You can still move around. Knockbacks are probably going to be the only thing that actually keeps that from being well. But I think overall that's just kind of a nerf. It's kind of interesting. Oh my god. I thought I clicked it back. I thought I clicked it back. Rest in peace. So yeah, let me get my ultimate back up so I can show. Rip, scuff stream. All that stuff. So we do have ult. The thing I'm worried about is doing this. So let's... That mine is why I'm nervous. So let's... And they're so far apart, like if you just walked here, you wouldn't get... So it's actually at the moment, because you did have the ability to spread it out, The problem is at that moment it's too far apart and would be a detriment unless you have the idea of like knocking people around. So let's see if I can swing up. I'm trying to get just right so that, yeah, so that would actually be a lot closer to the ground. I kind of wonder, that's actually my biggest concern, is that this PTR actually nerfed Hammond a lot because you can't do the quad DPS comps or the solo tank comps. Oh, one thing that's actually noticeable is a bug that they reported. This is actually pretty big. That's actually pretty big because there used to be a thing that you would disconnect and reconnect, and you actually won't deal damage instantly because it's based off of server tick, and so every so often it checks to see if you're actually shooting someone, and then it deals them damage as opposed to actually starting off dealing them damage. So that's actually a big thing.
My business, my rules.
So this is actually pretty nice because you can do stuff like this. Yeah, now full ammo. What else? Hanzo Storm Arrow, pretty much predictable. If you remove the amount of tanks that can be in the game, you kind of need to remove the amount of damage that can be dealt to said tanks, because that would suck otherwise. Oh, Doomfist bug fixes were pretty nice. I actually think that the biggest help to Doomfist was, well, the biggest buff had to deal with Doomfist. Sombra changes, I don't think changes anything, except the delay on her ultimate actually looks weird.
I might need this later. Looking for me?
So, and the ult charge nerf actually is noticeable. I think one thing that's a bit sketchy is they might be taking that ult charge thing more as with the tanks, because with a bunch of tanks, yes, you do get your ult charge a bit more. So let me show you. So there's a weird stutter that just feels awkward because they didn't change the animation. They just paused. They slowed down a couple of frames, which is weird.
The true enemy of humanity.
One thing that's not being talked about that often is because I'm holding interact. I'm trying to teleport as fast as I can. They did nerf that. So see, it's actually a lot smaller than it should be. This being indefinite is actually pretty nice because it was getting annoying sometimes when it's like, ah, crud, it went down. And it felt like when it would come out that a lot of people wouldn't really shoot it because it's like, yeah, it's just going to go down anyways. It's not really that big of a deal.
Get back.
And then the cooldown increase, I'm okay with the cooldown increase. That's all good. I like those. Tracer's Pulse Bomb going back to what it used to be. Honestly, it was a bad idea to drop it down in the first place, saying that they needed it to deal less to tanks. The Brigida ones are actually interesting, and they bring out a lot more strategies with Brigida, which are nice. There already was a lot of strategies with Brigida in the first place. Way back when she first came out, we actually were running her. Well, I had run her in teams as a solo support style comp. So basically, Ana would just be a solo support, or at the time, you can now be a Baptiste, or pretty much anything else. I would say not a Moira just because of the length of time and stuff. But this is actually pretty sweet. Just that in itself is actually pretty nice. And it makes it so it's less bad. Ooh. Just because it's better to deal with. Why did that switch over to tank positioning as well? This one. There we go. That's better. So passive was increased, which is good. Honestly, I think she's going to see some play in dive comp. Basically, because if you have two dive comps going up against each other, I think you're going to see a Brig sitting with your support. Just chill the entire time. Also, let me check this. Okay, so that's what that means. So they did say that that if you use E multiple times on the same person, it will just increase the duration. It does not increase the amount of armor you can get. That's just super nice, just hitting everyone. And this is at any range too. So this is actually more of a long range healing with close range here. So yeah, they're still within range right there. So the passive is actually pretty nice.
Feeling better?
Yeah. You can still throw it on people getting dove. You just have to be a little bit more on time with it. She's definitely going to be good for anti-flanker. That whole interaction is going to be pretty big. But yeah, she's basically... Because one problem is, in dive comp, you can have a Lucio with you, but you don't always want a Lucio. Because yeah, he can be in with the dive, but that's pretty much it. It's also good if you want to like speed boost everyone out. So let's do a test. Let's do a test. I actually want to see them take damage. I'm gonna time this out. So we're gonna heal this guy. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah. And this technically does increase Brigida's ult charge rate, but I think it's like a net loss. Yeah. So I think that can be used for a bunch of stuff. So yeah, you can knock people back like Lucio. You don't have the mobility, but you have more peel ability with stuns. Yeah. So basically the armor is only going to come into play if you're able to hit them with it before it actually happens. But being able to put armor onto 3 people at the beginning of the fight is going to be pretty big. Just doing this. Boom. Everyone has armor. Doing this. Rally. You just get a ton of armor, and then boom. Yeah, this... She's definitely going to be anti-dive, but work well in a dive. So that means you're going to be skipping a Winston. I think we're going to see a Hammond Diva dive, or a Hammond Zarya dive. That's very capable of happening. So So you could have a Hammond, Brig, Zarya or Diva, either one, honestly. Or a Hammond Winston. But you want more of armor removal. Because honestly, you're going to see a lot more armor with this one. Also, just being able to throw 3 armor packs on your dive is just going to be really good. Yeah, they're probably going to have to nerf the armor. I don't think they're going to... I think they're probably going to need to nerf how much armor you can get. Because it's 150 armor. No, it's 75 armor. I was looking at the 2. So it's not that bad. They might have to nerf it to 50. And increase the healing. So say it heals more, but you get less armor. Because yeah, this is going to happen a lot. Where you just go, oh yeah. There you go. So it does 150 over 2 seconds. That's 75 heal per second. It's pretty good. And I think combined with that, you could survive a grab if you use your ultimate with it. Also, the health reduction on the barrier is basically going to be good because now people have incentive to actually shoot at the barrier. Similar to the Maywall nerf. Any other questions? Oh, it also made her harder to play, which is a godsend. Because you now need to be more aware of your team, as opposed to just doing this the entire time. That's just gonna be a lot. Honestly, see it being used in bursts at the beginning of the fight. Okay. Well, if anyone has any questions, go ahead and post, but I think besides that, we're as much in as we should be. It's also funny that now Torbjorn and Brigitte have the same health. Think about it. Makes sense. They fixed a bug with Lucia as well that I think was pretty big. It was a wall sticking bug. Well,
justice ain't gonna dispense itself.
I think that'll be it then. So, yeah. Thank you everyone for watching. This is going to be on YouTube a little bit later. But yeah, there you go. Thank you everyone for watching. If you are on Twitch, okay. If you're on Twitch, I of course post these on YouTube. If you're on YouTube watching this, I do live stream these. I don't have a set schedule for them yet. We'll see if I actually get a weekly time to actually do this. This is mainly meant because a lot of people I've seen across many ranks, especially the team I'm Big B right now, is just like we have bad positioning across the board in a lot of situations, and so this is just meant to fix. Yeah, I'm not doing good on aiming today. That felt like a lot of no reds. There we go. So yeah, if you're on there, and then I also post updates on Twitter, giving like forewarnings of when I'm doing all that stuff. So yeah, that's gonna be it for me. Thank you, everyone. Bye.